according to a survey by the Centers for Disease Control, 26% of Montana high schoolers say they have been bullied at school. For girls, that number rises to 3 in 10. Both of those rates were the highest in the nation.
Color 8 Scott Beadle brings us one brave teenager story and how she wants to use a second chance to protect others.
I'd have to say the story began when I was about an 8th grader. That's when the bullying really started to pick up. And it was just to the point where if you weren't like everyone else, you were different, and that was bad. It increasingly got more aggressive and more personal.
After a particularly vicious verbal attack this autumn, Silka Adams reached a breaking point.
Everything just like fell apart around me. Like, I don't remember much of that day, but I would have to say that was one of the worst days I've had at my school. Because like, whenever I would think of something, or like, that was in the earlier periods of the day, so in the later day, it would just replay. It was like a movie, and it would just replay back in my head.
She decided to take her own life. She took several kinds of pills, some 5 dozen in all, according to her father. But as they began to take effect, she had a change of heart.
And I truly think it was some other power that guided me to call the 911. I remember waking up in the hospital, and I had a tube down my throat, and I could taste charcoal, because that's what they do when they pump your stomach. They put charcoal down your throat, and it like coated my throat, and I tasted blood. And I remember trying to rip it out, but my wrists were restrained to the bed, so I couldn't rip it out. And that was the first thing I remember.
In the months since her attempt, Silka has opened up to her parents and friends about her experiences. Now, she wants to share her story to educate students and teachers alike, with the hope that she can protect others and maybe even save a life.
The main thing I've taken away from this experience is there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I want to start an anti-bullying coalition and suicide prevention program called Words Hurt. And what that does is it establishes training and sets up training seminars for teachers and school faculty or anyone that deals with students.
Scott Beadle, Color 8 News.
Silka gave her first presentation to a freshman class just last week.
Tomorrow, we hear from her father about his unique journey through the issue.
18% of Montana teens say they've been bullied online, and those numbers grow to 26% in school, including 30% of girls.
Yesterday, we introduced you to Silka Adams, a brave teen who is taking on bullying after a suicide attempt last fall. That attempt stunned her family.
Tonight, we introduce you to her father and share his unique journey to become an anti-bullying advocate. Here's Color 8 Scott Beadle with the second part of his special series.
It hit me and my wife like a ton of bricks. I was sitting in a school one day, and I got a phone call from a friend saying, "Why is the ambulance at your house?" I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, we got to St. V's, and my daughter was in the ER with a breathing tube. So I've never felt that kind of pain, sorrow, disappointment in myself, because, you know, a father's role is to protect our kids. And at that time, I felt helpless that I couldn't protect one of my children.
Silka would spend 3 days in the hospital following her suicide attempt after being bullied. In the months that followed, the family focused on healing and opening up.
We just started just small lines of communication, you know, just how are you doing? Is there anything you want to talk about? And, you know, we just started having to rebuild from the beginning again to get that relationship to where she can open up to us now.
To those who knew him years ago, Thomas Adams might seem like an unlikely anti-bullying advocate.
I was a bully in high school, so I know how the bully system works.
In his youth, Thomas was involved with a white power group, but in the intervening years, he turned his back on that past as his life took a new direction.
I've made reparations for a lot of my actions back then. I've asked for forgiveness of a lot of people. Some have given me forgiveness, some haven't given me forgiveness. But now within my own family, I see the hurt that I caused people back then because I seen the hurt that my daughter's going through now.
With his unique insight, Thomas is calling for better education about what bullying looks like, how sometimes friends can cause the most hurt, and he supports new laws to help protect Montana's teens.
I don't have all the answers. You know, I just got the passion and the hurt of the past to make sure this doesn't happen again to our kids. You know, it's got to stop somewhere. This is my second chance to make things right.
Scott Beadle, Color 8 News.
Thomas stresses the importance of having open communication between parents and teens about issues at school.
Meanwhile, House Bill 284 is currently in committee in the Montana House. It would define and prohibit bullying and require schools to have a bullying policy.